Please microphone off करा please. I request all of you to mute your microphones except Dr. Wagmare. Can you mute your microphones please?
मल्टिपल मीटिंग का ठेवतात मला सांगा. एकच मीटिंग पूर्ण 1 तासाचं करायचं.
आ जाओ अंदर आ जाओ.
योगेश पुण्याला हक्क.
Doctor, you can continue.
Time slot is over. I think my time slot is over. I'll just wind up. I'm about to complete my presentation.
Yeah. You completed your presentation?
Yes, sir. Just 2 minutes are remaining.
Okay. Yeah, you can continue then.
Okay. Yeah. So, standing workstation is a new protocol in foreign countries. Now you can also embrace that. After sitting for 30 minutes continuously, anyone, whether you are at home or whether you are at office, you have to stand up for 3 to 5 minutes at the position wherever you are. Or if it is feasible, you can just have a leisure walk for 3 to 5 minutes. This will break that sedentary life cycle, and that will decrease the risk of diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. That's a very, very simple measure. You IT guys have to you can definitely follow this. You can follow this guideline, and you can definitely decrease the risk of diabetes and other conditions for you. So regular aerobic exercise, then breaking the sedentary lifestyle cycle by standing up for 3 to 5 minutes after sitting for 30 minutes continuously. Wherever you are, 30 minutes झाले की तुम्ही उभा राहायला पाहिजे, हे एक लक्षात घ्या. आणि त्यानंतर 7 to 8 hours sleep is a must for diabetics ना. कारण की if you don't sleep ना, if you are insomnia झाला, तुम्ही 7 ते 8 तासाच्या अगोदर जर तुमची झोप झाली नाही, तर तुमच्यामध्ये कॉर्टिसॉल नावाचा हार्मोन रिलीज होतो, आणि त्या हार्मोनमुळे तुमचं ब्लड शुगर लेवल वाढतं, आणि त्यामुळे तुमचं ग्लायसेमिक कंट्रोल खूप डिरेंज होतं. त्यासाठी 7 to 8 hours sleep is a must for diabetics. So you can reverse diabetes. You can decrease the requirement of your medications by doing this regular aerobic exercise, by following a proper diet plan, and making your life more physically active. Definitely, if you stick to that low calorie diet plan and the regular aerobic exercise schedule, then definitely you can reverse your diabetes, meaning you can drastically decrease the requirement of medication, or you can fully reverse that, and risk of complications of this. So in this short span of time, my presentation is complete. So the take home message is do regular aerobic exercise, be more physically active, and follow the proper diet plan. And anyone who has diabetes can mail me their routine, their medication schedule, and I can advise them the diet plan required to reverse the diabetes. Anyone who would like to reverse the diabetes, they can mail me their details. I can help them out. So any questions on this topic are welcome. Yes.
चंद्रकांत, मला आहे प्रश्न.
Yes, योगेश.
सगळ्यांच्या वतीने प्रश्न आहे. चंद्रकांत, योगेश बोलतोय.
हा योगेश बोल.
आता सेशन चालताना 2-3 क्वेरीज पण आल्या, तर त्याही मी विचारून घेतो. पहिली गोष्ट म्हणजे आयुर्वेद मधली ट्रीटमेंट इफेक्टिव्ह आहे का डायबिटीस साठी, हा एक प्रश्न. दुसरा प्रश्न अजून एक गजानन विचारला होता की म्हणजे लठ्ठ माणसांना तर डायबिटीस होतो, पण आजकाल बारीक लोकांना सुद्धा डायबिटीस होतो, तर त्याचं काही बद्दल सांग. आणि बऱ्याचशा दिवसापासून दीक्षित डाएट म्हणून एक प्रकार चालू झाला होता बरेच लोकांनी. इट इज मोर कन्सर्न टुवर्ड्स डायबिटीज असं त्यांचं म्हणणं आहे. त्या 3 गोष्टीवर
हा,
तू काय
हा.
एलॅबोरेट केलं तर बरं होईल. सो
ओके, डेफिनेटली. मला वाटतं पहिला प्रश्न आयुर्वेदिक मेडिकेशन्स वरचा आहे. पहिला प्रश्न
हो, हो.
आयुर्वेदिक औषधांबद्दल आहे ना?
हो हो हो.
हा. तर आय एम अ डॉक्टर फ्रॉम मॉडर्न मेडिसिन. आयुर्वेदिक औषधांचं मला तेवढं नॉलेज नाहीत, कारण वी बिलीव्ह इन एव्हिडन्स बेस्ड मेडिसिन. त्याच्यामध्ये एफिकेसी आहे का नाही हे क्लिनिकल ट्रायल मध्ये जज केल्याशिवाय आपण त्याच्याबद्दल काय बोलू शकत नाही. इफेक्टिव्ह असतील ही त्याबद्दल मी माझं काय त्याच्यामध्ये काय हे नाही, परंतु मी त्याबद्दल आय कॅनॉट कमेंट ऑन द आयुर्वेदिक मेडिकेशन्स. आणि दुसरी गोष्ट आहे ती मला वाटतं ओबेसिटी हा डेफिनेट एक रिस्क फॅक्टर आहे. परंतु असं नाही की ओबेस नसलेल्या लोकांना सुद्धा डायबिटीस म्हणजे होतच नाही असं नाहीये. परंतु त्याचं एक आहे की डायबिटीस झालेल्या लोकांमध्ये वेट लॉस पण होतो. त्यामुळं डायबिटीसमुळे ते वेट लॉस झालेल्या माणसांमध्ये जर डायबिटीस झाला तर आपण म्हणू शकतो की त्याला अगोदर ओबेस होता का काय ते बघावं लागेल त्याला. पण ओबेसिटी इज अ रिस्क फॅक्टर. पण असं नाही की ओबेस नसलेलं नाही म्हणजे डायबिटीस होतच नाही. पण ओबेस लोकांमध्ये खूप जास्त प्रमाणात होतं हे एक सत्य आहे. इज एव्हिडन्स बेस्ड फॅक्ट. आणि तिसरी गोष्ट झाली दीक्षित डाएटचं प्लॅन बद्दल. मला आय गेट सो मेनी क्वेरीज. तर त्यामध्ये मला असं आपल्याला सांगावंसं वाटतं की आय वुड कदाचित माझा आन्सर तुम्हाला डिसअपॉइंट करेल, परंतु दीक्षित डाएट मध्ये चे जे काय सायंटिफिक त्याचे काय फॅक्ट्स आहेत त्याने बेसिसवर ते करतायत. दीक्षित डाएटचं जे काय थिअरी आहे दॅट डझंट स्टँड द स्क्रुटनी ऑफ मेडिसिन. त्यामध्ये असं आहे की जर आपण 2 वेळेला जर पोटभर खूपच चांगलं जेवण केलं तर त्यामुळं पोस्ट प्रँडियल हायपरग्लायसेमिया होतो. जेवण केल्यानंतर ब्लड शुगर लेवल जी वाढते आपण त्याला म्हणतो पोस्ट प्रँडियल हायपरग्लायसेमिया. तो पोस्ट प्रँडियल हायपरग्लायसेमिया हा अतिशय भयानक असतो. त्यामुळं आपले हार्ट, ब्लड वेसल्स, किडनीज आणि नर्व्स असे बरेच ऑर्गन्स त्यांना ऍडव्हर्सली अफेक्ट होतात. तर त्याला टाइम टेस्टेड शेड्यूल हे आहे की आपण स्मॉल बट फ्रिक्वेंट मिल्स आपण घ्यायला पाहिजेत. You should have a balanced diet containing plenty of green vegetables, cereals, and green salad. तुमच्या डाएट मध्ये most part of your diet should be occupied by green vegetables and green salad, and so that you take less of carbohydrate, and so that your blood sugar level doesn't shoot up. हे झालं. आणि डॉक्टर दीक्षितांची जी थिअरी आहे की इन्सुलिनचं एक माप म्हणतात ते की आपण जेवण केल्यानंतर ते इन्सुलिन रिलीज व्हावं लागतं आणि 55 मिनिटाच्यात आपण ते जेवढं खायचं तेवढं खाऊन निघून द्यायचं. परंतु आपल्या शरीरामध्ये ओबेस होण्यासाठी फक्त हार्मोन नंबर ऑफ हार्मोन्स प्ले रोल इन द फॅट डिपॉझिट्स इन द बॉडी. ओबेसिटीसाठी इन्सुलिन व्यतिरिक्त अजून बरेचसे काय हार्मोन्स आहेत त्याच्या इंटरॅक्शनचं त्याच्यामध्ये काय त्याची दखल त्यात घेतली गेली नाहीये. त्यामुळे मी तर सांगेन की दीक्षित डाएट फॉर डायबिटिक्स कॅन बी हार्मफुल.
थँक्यू.
कारण आम्ही जे करतो की वी वॉन्ट टू अवॉइड पोस्ट प्रँडियल हायपरग्लायसेमिया इन द डायबिटिक्स, परंतु ते त्यांनी होत नाहीये आणि दॅट कॅन पुट देम टू द रिस्क ऑफ हार्ट डिसीज अँड स्ट्रोक.
हॅलो सर, A2 मिल्क आणि A1 मिल्क याच्यामध्ये आता सध्या खूप आजकाल A2 आणि A1 मिल्क बद्दल असतं की A2 मिल्क घेतलं पाहिजे त्याच्यामुळे डायबिटीज होत नाही. जर्सी काऊच्या मिल्क मुळे डायबिटीज
सॉरी आय डिडंट गेट युअर क्वेश्चन प्लीज. Which milk you are talking about?
A1 A2 मिल्क बद्दल विचारतोय मी. आजकाल खूप असं माहिती A2 मिल्क घेतलं पाहिजे देशी गाईचं वगैरे त्यांनी डायबिटीज होत नाही. A1 मिल्कनी डायबिटीज होतं म्हणजे जर्सी गाईचं मिल्क आहे त्यांनी डायबिटीज होतो. हे असं काही खरं आहे का?
नाही, ऍक्च्युली डायबिटीसच्या रिस्क फॅक्टर मध्ये मिल्क पिऊन वगैरे डायबिटीस होत नाहीये. डायबिटीसचे नॉन रिस्क फॅक्टर म्हणजे एकतर फॅमिली हिस्ट्री पाहिजे. फॅमिली हिस्ट्री असेल तर, आणि एकंदर आपले साऊथ एशियन्स आर व्हेरी व्हेरी व्हलनरेबल. साऊथ एशियन्स म्हणजे आपली इंडिया इन्क्लुडिंग सराउंडिंग साऊथ एशियन कंट्रीज. in South Asians are very very much prone to diabetes mellitus as compared to the Europeans or the Americans. And even there is very high incidence of among them. There is a very high incidence of heart disease among them. So genetically or we are very much prone to diabetes mellitus. Indians are very much prone, and therefore the BMI benchmark are different for the world, and they are different for the Indians, South Asian countries. WHO has set different benchmarks for BMI for Indians, South Asians, and for others they are different. आणि त्यामध्ये ओबेसिटी रिस्क फॅक्टर आहे, लॅक ऑफ एक्सरसाइज एक आहे, परंतु मिल्क पिऊन किंवा नाही पिऊन डायबिटीस इट इज नॉट अ रिस्क, इट इज नॉट अ कॉज ऑफ डायबिटीस mellitus. But milk is not advisable for diabetes.
Dr. Chandrakant. Hello.
Yes. Hello. Bola.
Dr. Chandrakant, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please.
Yeah,
Tell me your
Colonel
question.
Sawant here. Firstly, thanks a lot for a beautiful lecture. In a gist, it conveyed a lot.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, I have a query actually. I have a query. You said that like when you talked about Ayurvedic or when you talked about maybe homeopathy or maybe Dr. Dixit diet, you said that only clinical trials can prove yes whether the medicine is effective or not.
हो.
है ना. नाही त्याच्यामध्ये मला दुसरं हे होतं की हाऊ अबाउट लाईक व्हेन यू से की कोणाला डायबिटीज आहे आणि at any time can you say that the person doesn't have a diabetes?
Sir, your voice is breaking in
between.
between.
You talk about reversal diabetes actually. तर मी म्हणजे असं म्हणायचं की लेट्स से की एखाद्याचं जर का विदाउट मेडिसिन त्याची जर का शुगर बिलो 100 राहिली, वॉट एव्हर मतलब दोज नंबर्स विच यू गेव,
ओके फास्टिंग जर 100 च्या खाली राहिली
6 months है ना,
ओके
जर का विदाउट मेडिसिन त्याची जर का सपोज तशी राहिली तर कॅन वी से दॅट की इज नॉन डायबेटिक नाउ?
हो, वी कॅन. आपण त्याला म्हणतो की द पेशंट्स डायबिटीज हॅज गॉन इन टू रेमिशन. वी कॅनॉट से इट इज टोटली क्युअर्ड. We can say that it has gone into remission, and that stage may remain for 10 years or more depending on the patient's lifestyle. Technically by definition the patient has attained normal glycemic status. म्हणजे तो पेशंटला डायबिटीस आपण त्याला आहे असं म्हणू शकत नाही त्याला. It has gone in remission. जसं आपण म्हणतो कॅन्सर साठी आपण म्हणतो ना, आफ्टर chemotherapy cycle the patient's cancer goes into remission. म्हणजे it can the disease is absent for decade, म्हणजे काही वर्षानुवर्ष ते disease is absent. So we call that remission. So we can say that, safely say that the patient's diabetes has gone into remission, or it has been reversed for around 10 years or more depending how the patient leads the lifestyle.
That brings me to a further way actually. You see,
can we take all these questions offline now, because they say we have another session which is coming up.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Jayant Khandare.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's say I'll share his contact details, and you can get connected
definitely.
with Dr. Bagmare, so that like say he will guide you in detail
on a one-to-one basis.
Yeah, please.
Definitely, yes, yeah.
Thank
Definitely.
you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Chandrakant.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so
Yogesh,
much.
you can
For
introduce
pleasure,
Dr. Jayant and let him
talking to you.
continue.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Just a small brief introduction of Dr. Jayant, though I have already introduced him earlier. A very reputed scientist of a caliber, has been to many countries for his research work, genuinely contributing to human mankind, and specifically for the cancers and cancer patients. Really hats off to him, and I think let's hear from him only what he has been doing rather than me telling something, because it's him doing the great work. So I would put on things to Jayant to continue further. Please, Jayant.
Hello.
Jayant.
Sorry, right.
Jayant can continue, please.
Hello, Shashi. You are.
Yeah.
I think I will upload these slides.
I have let's say shared the screen.
You already shared the screen, okay?
Yeah.
And but my screen, I can't see the first slide. Instead, you have gone to the last slide itself.
No. I'm coming to the first slide. Yeah, just a minute.
Right. Please go to the first slide.
Yeah. Rest of you can mute your microphones, please. Thank you.
Shashi,
Yeah.
make it a full screen of a slides.
Maximize it.
Display full. Yes.
Yeah. I have.
Should I start, Yogesh?
Yeah,
Yes, you can start. You can start.
Yeah,
Please.
very good evening, and I hope everybody is taking immense care in this isolation of COVID pandemic. And thanks for bringing me here for another 30 minutes.
How can I see him?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
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 So I'm going to talk about a technology that actually we as a company has developed, which is called as an OncoDiscover trade name, and it comes under the liquid biopsy technology for detecting cancer or early metastasis. And all of us know that cancer is a disease that spans the breadth of the human experience, and cancer diagnostics and theoretically therapy problems are immense. And the main reasons are actually for the treatment, which actually doesn't complete, is because of a delayed diagnosis, poor sensitivity. The treatment usually is very inefficient, and most of the times the biopsies are very, very invasive. Next slide, please. Hello. Shashi, next slide. So I'm going to actually cover the table of contents as it is shown on the screen. I'm going to talk about cancer, the invasion of metastasis, how does it spread, and what are the cancer circulating problem. I'm going to talk about clinical significance of this diagnosis as a technology, how expensive this technology is, and what is the clinical utility of this kind of a technology. I'm going to talk about the clinical trial if time permits. Next slide. Shashi, next slide, please. This is my bio sketch. I have done PhD in biological sciences, but my major is actually chemical engineering and pharmaceutical sciences. We as a company, we hire scientists who actually have PhDs and postdocs abroad. I myself have filed about 20 plus patents and published many papers in very high peer-reviewed scientific journals. And today, it's a pleasure to all of you to discuss about our technology. Next slide. Shashi, are you there? Shashi, next slide. This is my OncoDiscover team. We are about 17 to 18 scientists. Next slide.
Yeah, it takes a little delay while going to next slide. So please.
Okay, I understand. Yeah. So we were founded in 2013 in Pune by myself and my co-founder Arvindan Vasudevan. And we have been immensely supported by government departments and agencies, including Department of Biotechnology and BIRAC and by DSR. And we are actually supported by many granting agencies. And then we have been supported by angel investors in US. Next slide. Next slide, please. We have been featured very recently by multiple media houses, including Times of India, or we have been also covered by BBC for our technology. Next slide. Shashi, next slide. We launched this technology, which is comparatively very simple, non-invasive, which actually came in a market in about October. And we were inventing this kind of a prototype for manufacturing a liquid biopsy over 6 to 8 years. Typically, this kind of technologies take around $100 million, but it's a pleasure to actually come up with a technology of an indigenous origin as a circulating tumor cells, which I'm going to cover from now on. Next slide. Shashi, next slide.
Yeah.
Seems there is a pause into the slides. let me introduce here actually what is being referred by Global Cancer Agency or Lancet. I'm going to actually talk about the statistics which is described by Lancet or Global Cancer Data or multiple research high peer-reviewed journals. So cancer incidences are known to be on rise, and primarily it is propelled by aging society, as just now Chandrakant said. Also because of a sedentary lifestyle and the commercial interest that is actually being galloping very, very predominantly. We should know that cancer types and incidence vary by the country, and India in general has head and neck cancer as a primary major cancer. And therefore, in cancer, typically it is predominantly prudent to find the patient as early as possible, detect the patient, or diagnose the patient. And we know that the cancer relapse can be dangerous, and therefore this kind of a technology has multiple utilities. Next slide. What is important is actually to find a diagnosis or detect a cancer which is real time. And that is what is probably going to empower the oncologists, hospitals, the clinicians, and the overall survival rate could be increased. Next slide. So what you see on the screen is a details about our technology OncoDiscover. And after this small talk, I think those who want to have more depth of an information could be easily analyzed on this website. Next slide. So OncoDiscover Technologies, India's first DCGI approved, that's a Drug Controller General of India's approved technology, which has been developed and using actually Indian population or phenotypes from the cancers of epithelial origin. Next slide. Next slide.
Yeah, it's taking time.
Is it visible?
Yes, it's
what
visible.
more difficult? Yes. What is more difficult in such kind of a technology? Threefold: the science depth or the plethora of knowledge that what world actually discloses, and then the most important is designing your material ability. Hard to do clinical trials with ethical permissions, as Dr. Wagmari was just implying, and getting this kind of a permission, especially in India, for medical devices until 2016 was quite undefined, and therefore we are the first company who actually traveled a path from 2013 to 2019 to get this approval. And this process involves immense clinical data, paperwork, patient inductions, and working with hospitals, including like Tata Memorial Hospital. Next slide. Let me start talk. All of us know that cancer is the emperor of the maladies. Next slide. All of us know that there is a normal path of a healthy cell which actually divides and multiplies into unhealthy tissues. And for some reasons or multiple reasons, including the change in an order of an oncogenes or the mutations that actually are regulated by multiple pathways which are upregulated or downregulated, and these healthy cells, they actually transform into an unhealthy cells, or we'll call it as a cancerous cells. Next slide. Focus only onto the carcinomas, which are actually from the solid cancers, tract, head and neck cancer, prostate, etc. And this scatters about 60% of the cancers, which could be applied for a technology that I'm going to talk about. Rest of the sarcomas, melanomas, they have limitations in liquid biopsy. Next slide, please. So the transformation of cancer from one organ to other organ is called as a spread of a cancer, or I will use a word called as a metastasis here. So how does this happen? That a healthy organ on the screen will have a phenotype transition. That means the normal cells actually get into the cancerous cells. The normal organ typically harbors these cancer cells for some time, and these cells fall or shred at the site, and with very difficulty they come into the peripheral blood through the capillary, which is narrower or smaller than the size of cancer cells. Typically, the capillary size at this cancerous tissue would be about 7 to 8 micron, while the cancer cells which are detached from these normal organs will be about 10 to 20 microns. But because of a plasticity, these normal cells which divide into an cancerous cells come into the peripheral blood and they circulate. Therefore, these cells are called as a circulatory cells, or the cancerous cells which are in a circulation. And they are called as circulatory tumor cells as a terminology. And these cells actually find other healthy organs, here endothelial organs. So from lung, it might actually transfer into the peripheral blood and reach to other organs, including breast, or vice versa from breast to other organ. Next slide. Let me actually highlight you what is happening in terms of global cancer incidences. If you see data of about 2018 that was published in Lancet, 18.1 million new cases were identified. US and Europe has about 21 to 23.4% of incidences per population. And in India, typically these incidences are about 10%. Next slide. However, it is very important to understand from 18.1 million incidences, what is the mortality globally. So in 2018, about 9.6 million cancer deaths actually were noted. And remember, the incidences in US are higher, which crosses more than 20. However, their mortality rate is very, very low, about 15%. Europe actually maintains the incidences as well as about 20%. Actually has a lower number of incidences, however, higher mortality incidences by various reasons. However, it is disheartening to know that this same agency predicts in 2030, about 10 years from now, the mortality will be about 30 million people. And therefore, I said that cancer incidences are on the rises due to many, many reasons. Next slide, please. This is the statistics for an Indian site. As I mentioned, about 10% of Indians will develop a cancer, and 1 in 15 will actually succumb to this disease. And about 1.2 million new cases were discovered in 2018. 0.8 million deaths actually happened that year. And the mortality rate, if you remember, was lower in other countries, which were developed countries. However, it is very, very high in Indian population. 5-year survival rate in India is very, very poor. That is almost 30%, half of a time that of a North America and US, which caters about 60%. And why cancer is at a dismal in India? Because there are treatment lacunae. Also, the trained oncologist India population is very, very low. That is about 1,000. The ratio is poorest among the developing countries or the developed country. One oncologist for caters about 2,000 patients. On the left-hand side, if you see top cancers in India, recently head and neck cancer actually has highest number of the incidences, while in female, the breast cancer tops the highest number. And typically about 25 patients are found in 1 lakh population for the breast cancer in India. This number is substantially high in UK, which is about 150 per 1 lakh population. And major male cancers are actually lung and from the head and neck cancers. Next slide, please. So it is known that early diagnosis is a better, can give a better treatment. What goes typically after a patient is diagnosis, that there is a primary tumor is formed, and this primary tumor formation is actually noted by the oncologist. But remember, the holy grail of cancer is not for a primary cancer, but it is for the secondary cancer or a metastasis. And accounting these secondary cancer or metastasis is very, very challenging, because the imaging technologies like CT and PET scan can detect the cancer of size of around 5 to 6 millimeters. And as I mentioned, the cancer cell which actually are harbored into a primary cancer sites, which when they disseminate and come into the peripheral blood, and when they circulate into the other organs and incubating over there and growing, is of around 10 to 20 micron size. So typically the cell migration and cell proliferation happens at a very early time point when the primary tumor, even of a small size, actually takes place. And I must mention at this point of a time, the diagnosis, the time between the diagnosis and metastasis and the death is very narrow for majority of the population of a patient. And that depends upon the type and subtype and the several other phenotype as well as genotype factors. Next slide, please. For a good researcher, you need to have collaborators which are actually clinicians. And one has to be lucky to work with such collaborators like Dr. Pankaj Chaturvedi on the left-hand side, who is a Deputy Director and Surgical Oncologist of Head and Neck Cancers in Tata Memorial Hospital, as well as actually a Professor and Medical Oncologist, Dr. Kumar Prabhash. And they have been collaborating on these clinical trials, which we conducted more than 500 patients in Tata Memorial Hospital. And we have recently published the outcome of this clinical trial and international agencies like ASCO and EACR. So today I was supposed to be at EACR in US presenting our poster, but because of a COVID, you have found me here today. And it's pleasure. Next slide. So first chapter, liquid biopsy. Next slide. So as I mentioned, that cancer diagnostics and therapy is an immense problem. Typically, it is detected by various technologies like MRI, CT, or PET. And typically, this kind of processes, especially taking biopsies, is very painful and invasive. And diagnosis of primary tumor and not metastasis cannot be detected most of the times when the tumor size is very, very small. Diagnosis is very symptomatic and not prognostic. Prognostic means the treatment clinical decisions. And this kind are not real-time monitoring. That means every month or every week, you cannot actually image what is going to be at a tumor site. Circulating tumor cell detection and capture, that is about a needle in a haystack. You would have actually one cancer cell in billion of other blood cells which are circulating into the system. So 1 ml of blood of epithelial cancer patient will have 1 billion of red blood cells, 7 to 8 million white blood cells, and very rare tumor cells that might account from 1 to 1,000. Next slide. Let me differentiate actually solid tissue biopsy as well as earlier slide, solid tissue biopsy versus the liquid biopsy. In a very brief, it's a highly invasive process. Primary focuses onto the tumor and cancer staging. The spatial heterogeneity in this tumors is very, very higher. Therefore, solid tissue biopsy has to have a whole body scans, and the sensitivity is still not achieved great. Primarily, solid tissue biopsy defines the line of a treatment for a patient and the prognostic decisions. the progression-free survival and overall survival cannot be predicted with the size or the other factors that are actually measured by the solid tissue biopsy. Versus that liquid biopsies are non-invasive. You can actually profile both primary as well as secondary cancers, that's a metastasis. Molecular insights, including genetic insights, can be actually accounted. And as I said, that every cancer is very heterogeneous, including into the very individual. So therefore, the treatments are now very personalized. And longitudinal disease surveillance is now possible. You could actually look into the possibility of not only one tumor, but the multiple tumor, measuring the account and the outcome of liquid biopsy. It can be actually useful for the treatment. It can see the response of a drug to every patient every 3 months of a time. Tumor burden can be measured, whether the treatment is actually getting into the regression or progression can be measured. The relapse can be actually easily monitored by taking patient blood sample as small as 5 ml of a volume. And progression-free survival and overall survival can be very, very highly monitored by liquid biopsy. So the historically, circulating tumor cells were actually reported by Thomas Ashworth almost 150 years back, and they comply multiple cells over here. I'm not going to get into the details, but the liquid biopsy encompasses about circulating tumor cells, circulating cell-free DNA, or circulating cell-free DNA. And there are also extracellular vesicles that have been very recently identified, namely exosomes. But I'm going to limit this next 10 minutes of a talk only to circulating tumor cells, a technology that what actually our company envisioned. Next slide. Liquid biopsies are of multiple folds. Actually, the science has gone to level of genetic information, including DNAs, RNAs, and all of us know that coronavirus kind of microparticles or nanoparticles can actually create an havoc worldwide. And similarly, the cancer actually is looked as a burden of a disease in developing countries like India. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned that the mortality with primary cancers is very, very less, and most of our focus in hospitals and clinicians take, which is about only 10%, and the spread of a cancer, metastatic patients actually die, that is about 90%. And it is said very wisely that 90% of the patient when reach to the hospitals are already metastatic, that means they cannot be treated, and only 10% of the patients are lucky that they are detected at a primary site. Therefore, the importance is to detect the metastatic initiation rather than the primary cancer, because even if you identify a primary cancer well before the birth or immediately after the birth, the clinical decisions cannot be manifested, the treatment cannot be begun. Therefore, early detection of a spread of a cancer is of a prudent importance. Next slide. So what are actually cancer's problem and typically in circulating problem? Next slide. As I mentioned that there is a theory which is proposed by many scientists, including this Stephen Paget, 150 years old. And he said that the best work in the pathology of cancer is done by those who are studying the nature of a seed. Next slide. And this is what is a genesis or hypothesis of our technology.
Dr. Jayant, we may get disconnected because we have left out with like a few seconds. So we need to rejoin, and I'll start from the same slide.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you.